So it appears that Joe Rogan has made some comments yet again about the coronavirus vaccine that are very damaging. It appears that he's skeptical of the vaccine for younger people for some reason, but also he's been a complete blockhead when it has come to the coronavirus altogether. He's made fun of social distancing. He's downplayed the virus in its totality. And he was whining about how he couldn't give his shitty stand-up comedy at the comedy club. Like a spoiled child. He's a big loser. But go ahead here. Check this out. He's going to make some comments about the vaccine.
And people say, do you think it's safe to get vaccinated? I've said, yeah, I think for the most part it's safe to get vaccinated. I do. But if you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I go, no. Yeah. Are you healthy? Are you a healthy person? Like, look, don't do anything stupid, but you should take care of yourself. You should, if you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, and like, I don't think you need to worry about this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
But there's a lot of jobs that will tell you need to have this.
Well, that's what's starting to happen now.
People are worried about them doing it for their children. And we talked about this earlier. Yeah. There's that you might have to have your children vaccinated. And, you know, I can tell you as someone who's both my children got the virus, it was nothing. I mean, I hate to say that. If someone's children died from this, I'm very sorry that happened. I'm not in any way diminishing that, but I'm saying the personal experience that my children had with COVID was nothing. One of the kids had a headache. The other one didn't feel good for a couple days. Yeah. Like maybe, I mean, not feel good. Like no big deal. No coughing. Right. No achy. No like in agony. There was none of that. It was very mild. It was akin to them getting a cold.
Yeah, and you can have this thing where it's like you were saying, this virtue signaling and this kind of like theatrical display of I get the vaccine, what a good person I am, I care about everyone. But you're like, look, my daughter's a lot younger than your kids, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not injecting my daughter with something to fucking virtue signal. Right. Like, I'm not doing that. Right. If there's something that she's of no risk, statistically has no risk from, right, I'm sorry, I'm not taking any experiment on her in that. And that's my attitude toward it.
But it's amazing that that's controversial.
Yeah.
That even saying that, I'm not going to inject my child with the vaccine is controversial. Yeah. It's crazy. Because, again, we are not talking about even the flu that we just found out killed 22,000 people last year. We're not talking about that.
Right.
We're talking about something that is not statistically dangerous for children. But yet people still want you to get your child vaccinated, which is crazy to me. Yeah. Like, you should be vaccinated if you are vulnerable.
So what you just saw there obviously was Joe Rogan being very anti the coronavirus vaccine for kids and younger people, like if you're like 21 years old. Now, honestly, I feel like there's a couple of underlying problems with the comments that he's making. One of them is that he keeps, the way he says, like, inject something into my child or like a 21-year-old, as if the vaccine, like, that alone automatically tells me a lot about what you are, because it's this some kind of idea that it has any potential negatives or that it could be a bad thing or that there's some kind of sinister motive going on, like injecting. Like, bruh, it's a shot of, like a dead virus that can give you antibodies to the virus. What is the downside or negative to that other than some very small, side effects that you're probably going to experience as a result of it? But when you're feeling those side effects, it's because you know that your body is responding to it and building the antibodies. So that, first of all, is like, to me, if you think about it, if you're 21 years old, if anything, you'd be like, yeah, I'm down to take the vaccine, because what is the real negative here? What could be the bad thing to this? They inject me with the shot. The injection is so light, it almost feels like you didn't even get it. And so if I were looking at it, I'd be like, why wouldn't you get it? But also think about all of the 21-year-olds. Well, the other thing I should say is the other underlying problem that he seems to be doing is he seems to be thinking about it on a specific individual basis. He keeps saying you should only get vaccines if you're vulnerable or you can be affected. But the problem is it's not Ebola where it's hard to contract. I think Ebola was contractable via like bodily fluids. Whereas this is one of the easiest, if not like the easiest transmissible virus we've seen, where it can be spread so easily. One person can spread it to so many people. So if you get it, you know, and you're not vaccinated, you could pass it on to other people. And keep in mind, and this is why we have the vaccine drives every single year for the flu, is because there are people who cannot get the virus, not the virus, sorry, who cannot get the vaccine for the virus. So that's why we have to achieve herd immunity by getting everyone to get it as possible so that we can get rid of the virus. Also, you got to keep in mind, when the Spanish flu first came up in its first wave, it wasn't really killing younger middle-aged people, but eventually it got mutated into a point where it was taking out younger people nonstop, and that's what essentially made it the infamous Spanish flu, was because it had killed so many people. And you know that the reason behind that was because middle-aged and younger people were experiencing that. And so that's really important to understand. So if you can get everyone vaccinated against or prevent these mutations that are already proving there are some of these strains that are already breakthroughs, where even though you got a vaccine, the strain was too strong or in some way it was able to break through, you want to prevent all of those things, so you need to get everybody vaccinated. Also, right now, everybody isn't vaccinated. There's millions of people, tens, hundreds of millions of people who don't have the vaccine in the United States. And so why you wouldn't get that to prevent the passage of it, I don't understand. Again, the weirdness of like, oh, I don't want to inject my child with this thing, as if it's like some sinister like brain chip that Bill Gates built. Like, it's this dumb, stupid, fucking ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. It's so dumb, so stupid. And the numbers amongst young people are rising right now who are having hospitalized rates and things of that nature. And also the anecdotal nature of him saying, well, you know, I have 2 kids who caught the virus and, you know, oh, they had a headache and felt sick. Like, is that how science works? Like, is that what you're going based off of? Of course not. Now, it is true that the numbers currently as it stands for kids, it is low in terms of the death numbers for kids. So that's certainly true. But that doesn't encompass the whole situation in terms of a pandemic, because kids can pass it on to other people. You don't know if the virus will mutate into something that will very negatively impact children or young people. And when he says, you know, young 21-year-old who's working out and eating well, most 21-year-olds are at college, they're eating pizzas and burgers, partying, drinking lots of alcohol. Not really sure which, you know, how many 21-year-olds are out there, you know, with the best diets. So I'm not really sure where he even gets that from. And then think of all the people who have asthma or various, you know, autoimmune disorders or vitamin deficiencies, like all of this other shit. Like, Americans as a whole are really not the healthiest of people. So that's another underlying issue that I feel like I have with that as well. But herd immunity is very, very important, which means we need to get everybody to have the vaccine. We need everyone to have the vaccine so we just stop the transmission of this virus. And this is dangerous rhetoric from Joe Rogan. I do expect I don't know if there's going to be any repercussions for what he's saying. I'm not really sure, to be quite frank with you. But, you know, eventually I feel like all this anti-vaccine stuff has to catch up to him at some point. But yes, this rhetoric, in my opinion, is very dangerous. It's very stupid. It's wrong. And I do think, yeah, it is pretty problematic indeed.